In just 1 decade, the number of people with diabetes has more than doubled. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, by 2050, 1 out of every 3 of us may have diabetes. What's the big deal? Well, the consequences of diabetes are legion. The number 1 cause of adult onset blindness, the number 1 cause of kidney failure, the number 1 cause of surgical amputations. What can we do to prevent it? Well, the onset of type 2 diabetes is gradual, with most individuals progressing through a state of prediabetes, a condition now striking approximately 1 in 3 Americans. But only about 1 in 10 even knows it. Since current methods of treating diabetes remain inadequate, prevention is preferable, but what works better, lifestyle changes or drugs? We didn't know until this landmark study was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Thousands were randomized to get a good double dose of the leading anti-diabetes drug, or diet and exercise. The drug, metformin, is probably the safest diabetes drug there is. Does cause diarrhea, and about half of those who take it makes 1 in 4 nauseous. About 1 in 10 suffer from asthenia, from the Greek meaning lack of strength, causing physical weakness and fatigue. But the risk of being killed by the drug is only about 1 in 66,000 every year. And the drug worked. Compared to placebo, in terms of the percentage of people developing diabetes within the 4-year study period, fewer people in the drug group developed diabetes. But diet and exercise alone worked better. The lifestyle intervention reduced diabetes incidence by 58%, compared to only 31% with the drug. The lifestyle intervention was significantly more effective than the drug and had fewer side effects. More than 3/4 of those on the drug reported gastrointestinal symptoms, though there was more muscle soreness reported in the lifestyle group on account they were actually exercising. Other studies subsequently found the same result. Non-drug approaches, superior to drug-based approaches for diabetes prevention. And the 50% or so drop in risk was not for people that actually improved their diet and lifestyle, but just those instructed to improve their diet and lifestyle, whether or not they actually did it. Check this out. This is one of the most famous diabetes prevention studies. 500 people with prediabetes randomized into a lifestyle intervention or control group. And during the trial, the risk of diabetes was reduced by that same 50 to 60%. But only a fraction of the patients met the modest goals. Right? Even in the lifestyle intervention group, only about 1/4 were able to eat enough fiber, meaning whole plant foods, and cut down on enough saturated fat, which in this country is mostly dairy, dessert, chicken, and pork. But they did better than the control group, and fewer of them developed diabetes because of it. But what if you looked just at the folks that actually made the lifestyle changes, met at least 4 out of 5 of those wimpy goals? They had 0 diabetes. None of them got diabetes, 100% drop in risk. Bottom line, type 2 diabetes can be prevented by changes in lifestyle, even in high-risk prediabetic subjects. The fact, then, that type 2 diabetes, a largely preventable disorder, has reached such epidemic proportion is a public health humiliation.
Well, is your diet driving your blood sugar crazy?
Yeah, November is National Diabetes Month, and our registered dietitian, Lisa G, is here to talk about how you can keep your blood sugar in tip-top shape. And it does. Blood sugar makes a big difference for people.
It really does. And one thing I find being in the field for a long time is there's a lot of misunderstandings on how to control your blood sugar. And in fact, my experience has been many folks don't even get the necessary information they need. And this is a topic that's really personal to me. My brother has type 1 diabetes. My dad has type 2 diabetes for, gosh, 20 years now. So it's why I went in this field, because people need this information.
Right.
And so one thing I think that's a misunderstanding is when you're diagnosed, there are things we can do to get your blood sugar down, and I'm all about prevention. So let's talk about eating to prevent it.
Right, instead of the medications.
Yeah, let's just do things like, forward thinking. So let's start with a typical day and look at what I would call a high sugar typical day. This is a kind of a standard American, day right here.
Right.
So we start in the morning and we have a bowl of cereal with some coffee with some of the sweetened creamer, okay? And that day, that between the creamer and the cereal, you're looking at about 60-some carbs right there. Okay. And now when you don't know carb counting, no, this doesn't mean anything, but that's a good dose of carbohydrate for someone who has blood sugar.
What's the daily intake of carbs you should have?
It really varies for each person, but for someone living with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, I wouldn't recommend that much. So you're already starting the day off higher with your blood sugar.
Okay.
Then we go on to lunch and we have pretzels and a sandwich, about 60 carbs right there. Then we have snacks throughout the day, maybe some crackers, a banana. So one thing here I want to point out is, people think about sugar being bad, which is true, okay? But all carbohydrates you have to think about. So even
it eventually
fruit,
turns into sugar.
Yes, all carbohydrates turn to blood sugar. So fruit isn't a bad food, but it does contain carbs. We need to think about that.
So it still counts to your daily count.
It still affects your blood sugar. And then, like maybe a little brownie. This little brownie at night here, you get a little brownie. This little stinking brownie has 40 carbs.
Yeah.
That's a lot of carbohydrate.
That little stinking brownie.
That little stinking brownie isn't worth the blood
Who
sugar.
likes that
Well,
little
if I eat
stinking?
half of it, it's only 20, so...
Well, who eats half of that, Rob?
We can work out a
Who eats
deal.
only
I'm just
one
saying,
at
you
that
eat half,
size,
I'll eat
right?
half, it'll all work out.
Then we have a good old pasta here, and pasta is a dubious one. It's loaded with carbohydrates. So 2 cups of pasta is 80 carbohydrates. That's a lot. That's more than some of my folks are doing for the whole day to control their blood sugar.
Right.
So, and notoriously, spaghetti sauce may have more sugar than cookies. So this stinking spaghetti sauce, for a cup of it, it has 28 carbs.
So I could just get rid of the spaghetti and eat the cookies. No,
Well,
I'm kidding.
okay.
I'm
So
kidding,
that-
but you're
that
right.
day
You just
ends
need
up-
to realize what's in
Where
it.
it's in. So that day is 315 carbohydrates, which is the equivalent of 21 slices of bread.
Whoa!
Okay,
That's like a loaf of
so
bread.
when we're talking about carb counting, I
Wow.
said there's 315 grams of carb in here. That's the equivalent of 21 slices of bread. Now, are you burning that off?
No, I'm
And is
not.
that helping your blood sugar?
No, it's not.
Could you
So-
imagine eating like basically an entire loaf of bread?
That's one slice short of the loaf of bread I bought.
Wow.
Okay? So
Not
then
good.
let's move on. What's a day that's going to make your blood sugars do the happy dance? Okay? That's what we want.
Okay.
So let's start off the morning with a beautiful omelet with whatever vegetables you care for. Here I got mushrooms and spinach. 2 carbs in the whole omelet. Okay?
Right.
You can still have your coffee in the morning, but let's switch up our milk. An unsweetened milk, cashew milk, is really creamy if you've never tried it in the nut milk arena.
Or
And
almond milk, those are
almond
good.
milk, and you can use a stevia-based sweetener. Okay, so
Okay.
now we cut out all that sugar from the liquid creamer. Moving on to lunch, you want a sandwich? Sandwich is no problem. You could do a lettuce roll-up. So you take your lettuce leaf, you put your ham or turkey, whatever you're doing.
It's an unwich.
Unwich. And they're super easy and portable. So you have them in your little aluminum foil
See,
here.
it takes planning.
And you just wrap that puppy up, and then you're good to go. Then you have it when you want to eat it at lunchtime. So you could totally pack these with some vegetables. This whole lunch with the hummus is 12 carbs. Compared
That's
to
terrific.
60
And that
carbs.
much hummus? How much hummus am I going to be
2
eating?
tablespoons.
2
so,
tablespoons
you know,
of
if you
hummus.
had more, we're
With some
talking,
bell
it's a
peppers.
big harm reduction.
Yeah,
Then
gotta watch
let's mo-
serving sizes too. That'll get you every time.
We move over to dinner. So what do? We want pasta. So there's a couple options. We could swap it out with spaghetti squash.
Yeah.
There's only 5 carbs per cup of spaghetti squash. So this whole dish right here is
And it
10
looks
carbs.
like noodles?
10 carbs compared to 80 carbs. Read your labels when you're at the grocery store. Look on the back, and you're going to look where it says total carbohydrate. That's how I'm
Right.
determining this is a less carb. So this has significantly less carbohydrate than the other one.
Just because of the sugar that's been added to
Right.
this one.
Some
Okay.
pumpkin full of sugar.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
you have snacks. So some almonds and some strawberries are lower carbohydrate snacks. And then let's talk about desserts, because I love chocolate like everybody.
too.
Yep.
And so we had this dinky little brownie.
Yes,
40
stinky
carbs.
little brownie,
Stinky
I
little-
think is what you called it.
Stinking
So
little guy.
then we have a chocolate bar, love of my life, and it says half a bar is 15 carbs.
So it's dark chocolate,
Oh, this
I
is
bet,
Dark
right?
chocolate. Oh, it's broken. It might
Broken
mean we
in
have to
half.
eat it because you can't
I mean,
take
you're
it home.
talking, you're
This
getting a
one's broken,
large
too.
amount of chocolate for 15 carbs when you started with 40 roughly.
Right.
So-
Those are smart switches.
Huge difference. So what I did is I have a little bonus for you. I have on my website today a sugar shocker guide. It tells you behind the scenes where the sugar is hidden.
Okay.
So at the bottom of my homepage on Your Tasty Life, you can check that out. But really, I want to empower you to start reading those labels, look at that carbohydrate content if we're trying to control or reverse, whatever word we want to use, our blood sugar.
I am so with you. I'm telling you, I'm taking you on. During this whole Nicole's maternity leave, I am going to drop 10 pounds.
All right.
I got to do
It's
it,
a
and you're
challenge.
going to be my coach.
Okay.
All
I
right.
want to learn about these things here, these black
Oh,
bean
and those,
noodles.
Rob, I didn't mention those. Those are another alternative. These are newer to the market. They're black bean spaghetti. So they're made from black beans.
Okay.
And there's much less carbohydrate in these.
And it's
than
already
traditional.
done?
It's already, you cook
So
them
it's
like
not
you
me
would.
taking
Yep.
the squash.
Look, they look
through.
like real
Yep.
noodles.
They look like real noodles. You cook them like real noodles, and there's way less carbohydrate in these. There's 15 carbs
Yeah.
in a serving compared
That's
to
very low.
40 carbs. So just swaps.
Open up
swaps.
your eyes.
Smart eating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can handle this.
And
You
then
can totally
you
do
can eat
it.
the chocolate, right?
Yeah, and
Right.
hey, that's how we get the reward. Then. We get our
One more
chocolate,
bite. Exactly.
We're good to go.
Thank
Sweet.
you, Lisa.
Tasty.
Great
Thank
info.
you, indeed. We'll eat all the stuff she brought, and then we'll be back with more show.
Type 2 diabetes is becoming a world pandemic. We know the consumption of eggs is related to the development of some other chronic diseases. What about diabetes? Researchers found a stepwise increase in risk the more and more eggs people ate. Eating just a single egg a week appeared to increase the odds of diabetes by 76%. 2 eggs a week appeared to double the odds, and just a single egg a day triple the odds. 3 times greater risk of type 2 diabetes, one of the leading causes of death and amputations, blindness, and kidney failure. This is not the first time a link between eggs and diabetes has been reported. In 2009, Harvard researchers found that a single egg a day or more was associated with an increased risk of type 2 diabetes in men and women, and that finding has since also been confirmed in other populations. Asia in 2011 and Europe in 2012. And the high consumption of eggs associated with diabetes risk was less than 1 a day. Though it appears you have to start early, once you get into your 70s, avoiding eggs may not help. Once we then have diabetes, eggs may hasten our death. Eating 1 egg a day or more appears to shorten anyone's lifespan, but may double the all-cause mortality for those with diabetes. Not good news for the egg industry. From a transcript of a closed meeting I found through the Freedom of Information Act, given the rate at which obesity and incidence of type 2 diabetes is growing in the U.S., any association between dietary cholesterol and type 2 diabetes could be a showstopper that could overshadow the positive attributes of eggs.